2 years later. Naruto sat on his bed looking at a kunao his mom got him for his birthday and chuckles softly before it became hollow and Naruto's eyes slowly watered. Why? You may ask. Naruto just found out his mom has an incurable disease. Well, a cure hadn't been made so far, but from what he was told, it affected her lungs the most, mainly when using her chakra. Naruto looks up at the door and gets up off his bed, walks to his mom's room, and peeks in. Hey Kaa-chan, he asked softly. His mother looks at him and hums in response. Can I go see Itachi and Mikoto Oba? He asked very softly, almost unheard by his mother as she nodded. But be back by 5 Naru-chan, she replied, and Naruto nodded softly. As Naruto walked to the Uchiha head's house, he thought of what to tell them, as only he and his mom knew of her disease. While lost in thought, he never realized he reached their door until his hand subconsciously knocked on the door. Coming, shouted a female voice inside, who after 30 seconds opened the door. Oh, hello Naru-chan, she said before realizing his downtrodden facial expression. What's wrong? She asked. And Naruto looks up at her. Can you get Itachi and Sasuke as well? I need to tell you all, he mumbled as she nodded softly before going inside. Naruto followed her until they got to the living room. Naruto entered and sat down on the couch as Mikoto went to get the boys. After 5 minutes she returned, and Itachi looks at Naruto. Hello Naruto-kun, what's wrong? Itachi asked softly as he saw Naruto look at them with eyes that had unshed tears. My. Naruto's tears finally burst free. Kaa-chan isn't feeling well, he said while sobbing. And the doctors can't help her, he continued while his tears continued. Mikoto's motherly instinct kicked in and she cuddled Naruto while Itachi had a grim expression and Sasuke looked confused. What do you mean your Hikari Oba isn't feeling well, Naruto? Asked the confused Sasuke. We saw her yesterday, he finished, and Naruto flinched. She woke up coughing a lot this morning. When I went in with a glass of water her hand had blood on it. And she had no cuts. Naruto held on to Mikoto as he continued to cry. The doctors say her lungs are bad and using chakra speeds up the disease, he mumbled into Mikoto's shoulder as he sniffled. After 10 minutes of crying, he stopped, and let go of Mikoto, who rubbed his back softly. Itachi's grim expression turned worse. Does Shisui know? He asked softly. Naruto shook his head. No, Shisui nii is on a mission and won't be back for a week, he replied, making Itachi flinch slightly. Naru-chan, Mikoto said, gaining his attention. Would you take me to your house? We have to make you and your Kaa-chan some lunch. I'm sure she needs her rest. Naruto nodded slightly as he stood up from his seat and looks at the Uchiha brothers. Are all of you coming? He asked, slightly defensive. I don't know if Kaa-chan like Fugaku-sama much, he mumbled, making Mikoto giggle. No, it's just me and you. I'm sure Itachi-kun would cook food for his brother and father, isn't that right Itachi? Mikoto replied with a sickly sweet smile, making Itachi nod rapidly. Now Itachi might be strong, but a woman's bad side is not one even the strongest ninja can survive. Mikoto's smile returned to her regular one as she continued. Let's go Naru-chan, she replied as Naruto nodded and slowly led her to his house, and as they entered, they saw Hikari on the stairs about to come down. Kaa-chan. The doctors said rest. Naruto exclaimed, making Hikari giggle. Bed now or I won't go buy you any dango tomorrow. Naruto shouted, making Hikari look stunned. And now Naru-chan. Kaa-chan was going to watch TV down here, Hikari said, trying to get off her son's bad list, making Mikoto giggle at the interaction. Now, Hikari, I believe you should be resting, Mikoto said as she walked to the kitchen. It's alright, I'll make you some food, she continued before looking at Hikari, and after you can explain everything. Mikoto finished and made Hikari flinch. Hi Mikoto, Hikari responded sheepishly and then sat on the couch as Naruto sat with her and cuddled into her. You'll be fine, won't you? Mumbled Naruto as Hikari nodded and rubbed his hair. Yes, my little Naru, Kaa-chan will be fine, Hikari replied while Mikoto kept cooking and smiled at their interaction and chuckled lightly. Naru-chan, could you set the table? Mikoto asked and Naruto nodded and jumped off the couch and ran towards the dishes. For 3 Oba-chan? Asked Naruto getting a nod in reply. Naruto grabbed 3 bowls, plates and 3 sets of chopsticks and put them on the table and put them around the table and nodded before sitting at his spot. Hey Oba-chan. Does Sasuke have his sharingan yet? Asked Naruto hesitantly. Mikoto giggled and shook her head. No Naru-chan, Sasuke hasn't yet, she replied as Naruto nodded satisfied with the answer. After another 10 minutes Mikoto finished cooking and put the food out for the 3. After eating Naruto looks at his mom and aunt figure. Kaa-chan, is it bedtime? He asked quietly as she chuckled and nodded. Can I take a shower first? He asked again and Hikari nodded again. Go take a shower Naru, me and Mikoto have to talk as well, Hikari replied as Naruto nodded, got up and ran to the bathroom and started the shower as Hikari looks at Mikoto. How long have you had the disease? Mikoto asked seriously as Hikari chuckles softly. A couple months, but training Naru-chan sped it up a lot. After all I had to show him chakra control using my own chakra as well as some clan jutsu. The Gokakyu no Jutsu to become a proper clan member, she mumbled as she smiled at Mikoto, stunning her slightly. What do you mean chakra control? Which is he on? Asked Mikoto. He completed tree walking and is now on to water walking, which he is close to mastering. And he has almost gotten Gokakyu to his standard of mastery, which is being able to preform it, but he planned to get it to a single hand sign. Hikari chuckled softly as Mikoto was speechless. After Mikoto gathered her thoughts on what to say, Naruto came down in his pajamas and smiles at his mom softly. Hey Kaa-san. He muttered softly as he looked at the floor, his eyes shadowed by his hair. Yes sweetie, asked Hikari, but soon gasped as she saw him crying. Naru-chan, what's wrong? She asked as she kneeled down and cuddled him. My eyes hurt, he mumbled, and not before long he looked up, making both women gasp before he passed out. His eyes weren't his normal color. He unlocked the sharingan, both eyes single tomo. After 30 minutes and Hikari putting Naruto to bed, Hikari looks at Mikoto. He unlocked it, Mikoto stuttered. Hikari only nodded. At 5 years old. Hikari looked at Mikoto again and looked away. Could it be the fox's influence? She asked softly and Mikoto shook her head. Minato made sure he wouldn't be able to converse or be influenced by the fox until this happens, Mikoto said, surprising Hikari. He left you a letter in the hospital when you passed out. I read the letter and that's what it said, Mikoto said, and Hikari sighs and looks at the table. Do you think he trained himself too hard and awakened it like that? Hikari questioned and Mikoto nodded. Could be, after all it's how Taka got his, Mikoto mumbled to herself, making Hikari nod instead. The two mothers talked about possibilities while Naruto was upstairs tossing and turning in his bed until he stilled and woke up in what looks like a super-sized sewer compared to him. He got a feeling from a passage in front of him which made him smile softly as he walked down it until reaching a large gate of metal bars with a seal in the center, making Naruto look at it funny. Until he sighed and then heard a booming voice. So you decided to visit me? What do I owe my jailer for visiting me so soon after I woke up? Questioned the voice, scaring Naruto. After all, you have the blood of those I despise. The voice exclaimed until a claw the size of Naruto shot through the bars and Naruto looked a little scared before steeling himself. So Ninjin, what do you want? Questioned the voice and Naruto sat down. So this is where the Kyuubi really went the day I was born, Naruto muttered to himself before looking at the Kyuubi and smirking, but that's a title huh? Naruto questioned, surprising the Kyuubi. After all, we have Shikaka the Tanuki, but all the other Baijuyu have a number of tails such as the Nibi, Sanbai, Yanbai, Gobai, Rokubai, Nanbai, Hakubi, and finally the so-called Great Kyuubi. Apparent reincarnation of hatred. As Naruto finished, his smirk grew at the Kyuubi's shocked face before Naruto grinned like a mischievous fox and spoke again. And who's to say there isn't a hidden Baijuyu like the Ribi or Juubi? Naruto muttered, surprising the Kyuubi even more that such a young boy could have guessed at there being another tailed beast. I don't plan on putting the ribby in this at all or even in this universe. So the Uchiha brat is smarter than he looks, the Kyuubi said, making Naruto look at him before the Kyuubi laughed and then sighs, putting its head on its paws. But that does not make you worthy of my name. Maybe a little help like me teaching you a couple of history lessons but nothing more, Kyuubi finished before smirking. Maybe you should open up the seal, grant me a little more freedom, Kyuubi said, making Naruto look thoughtful before Naruto looks around. Naruto hummed before smirking. Nah. There's nothing to help me up there, Naruto said before looking around more thoroughly. Whose chakra is that? Naruto muttered to himself, surprising the Kyuubi further that he can feel the presence of Minato's chakra after he sealed a bit away. Hey, so Kyuubi, Naruto said, getting his attention. Whose chakra is it? He questioned, making Kyuubi think for a moment before sighing. You may as well come out, after all he appears to have a sensory ability, the Kyuubi said, making Naruto look at him before turning to the chakra and smirking. Yandame-sama, Naruto muttered to himself, and Minato suddenly gained a cloud of depression while Kyuubi laughed at him. The next morning, Naruto lay in his bed staring at the ceiling as he smiled before sighs and thinking, was it all a dream? However, he wasn't expecting a deep voice to answer with, I don't know, kid, you tell me if it was a dream, replied the Kyuubi, making Naruto's smile return full force, and he jumps out of bed. He stretched slightly before doing his morning workout to keep his body in shape. It was a light workout which he planned to increase as he grows up. After finishing his workout, he walked to the bathroom and remembers the night before. Yandame-sama, muttered Naruto, earning a rumbling chuckle from the Kyuubi and a look of depression as Minato kneeled in the corner muttering about God knows what. After about 30 seconds Minato stood up and sighs. I guess Hikari-chan never told you yet, questioned Minato, surprising Naruto before Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. You know Kaa-chan? He questioned skeptically, making Minato look surprised before he burst out laughing. Know her? I was married to her, Minato exclaimed, his laughter increasing more as Naruto's eyes widened to inhumane sizes. Tio-you-san, Naruto muttered before he remembered the Kyuubi was there and then punched Minato as hard as his little body could. Baka. Why did you put the Kyuubi in me? He shouted with all the rage he could, making Minato flinch slightly at his son's rage and the Kyuubi to sigh sadly. Naruto inadvertently activated his sharingan. The single tomos spin faster than most 3-tomode sharingans could, surprising Minato and the Kyuubi. Minato slowly cuddled Naruto and whispers, I'm sorry Sachi. He sounded so hurt as he continued, I couldn't allow the Kyuubi to destroy our home, and it was either you or let him destroy Konoha. Minato muttered and shocked Naruto more at how exposed his greatest hero sounded, the person he swore to his Kaa-chan to surpass, his Tio-you-san. Naruto slowly wrapped his smaller arms around Minato as tight as he could as he cried, and now I know why Kaa-chan isn't scared of her illness. He muttered and sniffled, surprising Minato heavily before Naruto pulled away and looks at Minato. Tio-you-san, why do you look like a boy, Tsunade-sama? Naruto asked innocently, surprising the Kyuubi and Minato. Minato was surprised at how well Naruto deduced the one fact Konoha hadn't and the Kyuubi, because it made sense why Naruto had familiar chakra to both Hashirama and Madara. Naruto was the great-grandson of one and grandson of the other. Minato sighs and smiles, because she is my Kaa-chan, Minato said softly, making Naruto gasp as he connected the dots and smirked. So I'm practically royalty in this village, Naruto shouted with a smirk before looking down. Now it explains why my chakra control is good and why I have all affinities. Naruto grinned and looks to the Kyuubi. So Kyuubi, gonna tell me your name? Hey Kurama, questioned Naruto as he finished brushing his teeth, earning him a half-interest grunt. If I know your name, does that make us friends now? Kurama seemed a little surprised before chuckling and replying, you're okay in my book, kid, but I want you to keep us meeting a secret. You can talk about Minato but not me. Especially to your Kaa-chan. Naruto nodded as he walked downstairs to see breakfast made and his mom eating, which made him smile softly. Good morning Kaa-chan, Naruto said softly as she smiled at him. Naruto sat down and went to start eating before saying, I know who my Dio-san is, surprising his mother heavily. I guess it's time you trained in what he left you huh? Hikari asked softly as Naruto looks at her before Naruto shakes his head. I'm not strong enough to protect the things Dio-san left me, especially his Fuinjutsu knowledge. When I master everything you've taught me I will. Naruto finished quietly before looking at her with unshed tears. Dio-san said he misses you Kaa-chan and that you still have time left, so please don't leave me yet. Naruto finished with a slight whimper as he knew from talking to Minato his mother's health was degrading. Hikari sat there stunned before she softly smiled and walks to Naruto, cuddling him tight, then kissing his head. Kaa-chan won't leave her baby boy alone. Even if you are close to being in the academy, she says softly to him as Naruto nods into her shoulder, not until little Naru-chan gets big and strong. She finishes softly and quietly, making Naruto nod again. Little did both know, in the next coming months her sickness would drastically increase and kill her before the academy. Hikari smiled at Naruto. Anyways, should we start to train you in your sharingan? How about getting Itachi-kun or Mikoto-chan around to help while I watch? Hikari said, and Naruto started to have a beaming smile. After breakfast Kaa-chan. Naruto shouts and quickly ate his breakfast. 2 years later. We see a 3 feet 11 inch tall 7-year-old boy stood in the doorway to a dark house as he walks in, muttering Tadema as he just walks to the kitchen. The boy is Naruto Uchiha. He recently got into the 2nd year of the academy, only problem is, he had no parents to show his achievements to. His mom died a month after he started the academy. All the childish light in his eyes dissipated after she died and he just threw himself head first into training, only stopping when Mikoto forced him to and made him food. The only people who could get a full conversation out of him was Mikoto and Kurama, who worked to support Naruto when he trained too hard, a couple months before his mother died. Naruto unlocked his 3-tomo sharingan, which further went to evolve, unbeknownst to everyone but Kurama, into the Manjaku as he watched Hikari die. Naruto had a small seal on his shoulder which he taught himself using his father's books for guidance and sealed away his mother's dying wish, her eyes. Naruto made himself some bacon, eggs and rice for lunch before he heard a knock on his door, making him groan and walk to open it. Upon opening it he sees the Sandaime at the door with a grandfatherly smile as he looks at Naruto. Naruto though seemed confused if this is about my house's rent or whatever. Leave. I paid it. Naruto went to close the door before Hiruzen spoke up. Actually I have something that belongs to your family. Upon hearing those words Naruto stopped. Dio-san or Kaa-chan's side? Naruto asked seriously as Hiruzen opened his eye, his smile still there. Kaa-chan, Hiruzen replied as Naruto grumbled and opened the door for him to come in. Once Hiruzen entered he motioned for his umbu to bring out whatever it was, and when they did Naruto saw a package in the shape of a war fan. Madaraji's gunbei? Naruto asked, feeling the chakra coming, surprising Hiruzen and the umbu. Then Hiruzen nodded. Naruto looked thoughtful before a growl escaped his lips. Someone tried to steal it. Hiruzen and the umbu looked confused. When we found it no one was there, Hiruzen said, and Naruto looks at him before sighing and standing up and motioning him to follow as they walked to the back room. As Naruto opened it they saw it filled with what looks like artifacts. This room is filled with Madaraji's war things, his armor, weapons, jutsu scrolls, and whatnot, Naruto said, but we keep it locked at all times. A couple days ago the door was slightly ajar and Madaraji's gunbei was gone, Naruto said, surprising the other occupants of the room. Naruto's facial expression hardened, and I know who it was. Naruto basically growled out. Who? Asked the Nico-masked umbu. The person who is trying to impersonate Madaraji and unleashed the Kyuubi when I was born, he said, gritting his teeth, the same person. Naruto whispered as his chakra seemed to skyrocket. The dense chakra and amount surprised all occupants of the room, the exact same person. Naruto muttered before controlling his chakra and walking over to Nico and grabbing the gunbay's handle and carrying it luckily. He isn't blood related to Madara Hashirama, Naruto said calmer than before, or he would have gotten the gunbei. After all, Madara Hashirama's gunbei is a weapon that only people from his direct bloodline can carry and touch his stuff without their chakra levels being depleted to basically nothing. He says as he puts it back, and whoever tried to steal it won't be able to now. After all, I keep my senses open at all times after it was stole, Naruto drawled out as the others nod. Anyways, thank you for returning the gunbei. I wish to return to lunch now, Naruto said, snapping Hiruzen out of his stupor, who nodded and dismissed the umbu. Naruto, Hiruzen said seriously, your chakra felt way too similar to a clan that only has one person left, Hiruzen said, surprising Naruto. Mind explaining why it felt like a senju's? Naruto stood there and sighed. Tell your umbu to leave. What I'm about to tell you could. Naruto paused. Sorry, would destroy the whole integrity of that clan and this one, Naruto said seriously. Hiruzen did so and Naruto grabbed a kunai, throwing it into a corner, pinning someone's shirt there. When Naruto dragged them out, he saw a plain white mask with Eni on. Rude. Hiruzen muttered, but Naruto heard. The disbanded umbu units that Danzo Shimura was in charge of, he questioned before snorting. I thought my father got rid of these rats, he said before taking the mask off and sealing the umbu's chakra and putting a gravity seal on him. He can't move or mold chakra, Naruto said as he knocked out the umbu. Anyways, Naruto sighed. I guess explaining my parents will help, Naruto sighed as he sat on the umbu. I'm Naruto Namikaze Uchiha, son of Minato Namikaze and Hikari Uchiha, grandson of Tsunade Senju and Grey Moth Namikaze on my Dio-Usan's side. On Kaha-chan's, I'm the grandson of Madara Uchiha and Hotori Uchiha. Naruto finished, surprising Hiruzen before he realized something. Madara would have to have been at least 70 years old when Hikari-chan was born. How did he do it? Hiruzen asked, and Naruto looks at him before sighing and picking up Madara's journal he left. Madara Hashirama apparently at the Valley of the End bit off a chunk of Hashirama's shoulder and infused them with his body, allowing him the cell regeneration and body regeneration of Hashirama. In other words, he took the cells, and they made him slightly younger if his journal is true, Naruto said before muttering the end. Hiruzen was surprised again before nodding. I shall take my leave now. I believe I have a letter to send to your grandmother anyways, muttered Hiruzen as he went to leave, being stopped by Naruto. Don't force Tsunadoba back, she doesn't need to know I have no guardian, he muttered as Hiruzen nodded before leaving, letting Naruto eat his lunch before he started to train harder. 5 years later, we see a blonde-haired 13-year-old stood on top of the gates to Konohagakure no Sato. The blonde was about 5 feet 4 inches with his hair tied up in a ponytail. His outfit consisted of a black hoodie with a small Uchiha fan on the end of the tassels, which were tied together to stop them from getting in his way. He also wore black cargo pants with many pockets on, a kunai pouch with a shuriken holster and a scroll holder for small sealing scrolls. His feet were protected by full-toed shinobi boots and the bottom of his pants were taped down with dark gray shinobi tape. All in all, he looked like an ideal shinobi, as the owner of the Higurashi weapon store said. Oh, and this person is our protagonist Uchiha Naruto. Currently Naruto is preparing himself for his graduation exams from the academy by calming his body through meditation whilst also making a grin that Kurama would be proud of. Why was he grinning? Well, he currently had a bunch of seals hidden in the houses of certain council members, civilian, and was waiting for 7:30 a.m. to be in the academy before Irika, his sensei, was there. As if by fate, his small alarm clock next to him, and he left for the academy in a shunshin which he was taught by none other than Shisui, who was Naruto's remaining immediate family member in the village, until the Uchiha massacre, where Itachi Uchiha, in a sense, slaughtered all his clan members other than Sasuke. Why he didn't get Naruto though is because Naruto was pre-warned about the Uchiha clan planning a coup d'état to overthrow the Hokage and the leaders of Konoha and the Land of Fire. As soon as Naruto found out from Shisui, he hid himself from the Uchiha clan in a bunker only his parents and family knew about, /n Hikari. Minato and their parents, after he knew the slaughter finished as he sensed Itaka's chakra leave the Leaf Village, Naruto went home and started to act shocked to take suspicion away from him, which he soon regretted as he was treated as a prince of the village alongside his only remaining clan member who changed for the worse in his opinion. Naruto slowly put on a mask over time to hide all of his training progress as he didn't want any of the villagers' praise. After all, they were the villagers who disrespected him and his mother when she was still alive. But after today everything changed. Naruto was going to make everyone believe he is the dope when in reality he was as strong as a mid-jonin level shinobi, but he lacked the experience. Over the years his friendship with Kurama got better and he even found out from Kurama about the Mangekyo sharingan and the fact he unlocked it. He found this out when he was 10 and asked Kurama what it meant. Kurama explained what the Mangekyo was, the skills he could possibly have with them and what negative effects it could have if he overused it. Because of that, Naruto trained with it lightly until he mastered the abilities of his right eye. But the abilities he got in both his eyes were Amaterasu and Koda Amatsukami, Amaterasu in his right eye and Koda Amatsukami in his left. He trained Amaterasu until he was able to activate it with T mental command, and it took an instant to ignite the target, and in Koda Amatsukami he found out he couldn't efficiently train with it as it took a year for his eyes to recover, and that was only thanks to Kurama and his Senju blood assisting the cooldown for the eye to recover. He also started to work on his Susanoo where he got it to the full skeletal body and didn't want to push it further as the ability was draining his chakra even with the near infinite chakra battery. He had known as the Nine Tails chakra, which he didn't enjoy taking as it wasn't his chakra but his best friend's. His vision was at about 80% of what it originally was, but he wanted to push his eyes until he had at least 10% of his vision remaining, and even then he had his sensory abilities which Kurama gave him. Over the years he's practiced all the shinobi arts such as Fuinjutsu, Tai, Nin, Gen, Ken and Iryo. Although he couldn't pull off any Iryo ninjutsu, he still studied it to assist in making medical seals for the active shinobi. He also used his knowledge of Iryo ninjutsu to run a check on his mother's symptoms and then hand them to Tsunade for whenever he saw her for her professional standpoint. Over the years he and Tsunade got to know each other through letter they sent each other monthly as she was his remaining family whether she was in the village or not. He remembers the first letter he got where she warned him to avoid talking to someone called Danzo Shimura, which to him just sounded weird as he hadn't even heard of this Danzo until some old man spoke to him claiming to be Danzo and wanting Naruto to train under him. Naruto refused, saying that he already had someone training him but still kept silent on who it was. Anyways, back to the main story and enough about side stories that will be mentioned in later chapters. Naruto was sat in his usual spot, the top of the classroom next to the window, as he yawned softly and muttered a small troublesome before freezing and mumbling, "Oh God, I sounded like Shika there." He shivered, making a certain lazy pineapple-haired Nara sneeze and mutter a troublesome. As Naruto was muttering about sounding like Shikamaru, another of his best friends, Iruka Umino, Naruto, and his class sensei walked in only to see Naruto sat in his chair. He chuckled, catching the attention of the only other occupant of the room. "Oh hey Iruka-sensei," Naruto said to one of the only people he had full conversations with. "Good morning Naruto, but I was expecting you to change next week, not today," Iruka said in good nature, making Naruto smile softly. "Now seemed like a better time, after all they need to see that I'm not the orange-wearing dope anymore." Naruto muttered as he heard someone yawn, which made him smile inwardly whilst thinking, "Good morning Kurama," as he got a deep grumble as a reply as his first best friend was about to yawn. While Naruto was conversing with Kurama, the rest of the class came in and looked at him confused by his outfit change but found it easier on the eyes over his Kill Me orange jumpsuit. It wasn't until Shikamaru and Koji walked in that Naruto paid attention and smiled softly at them. Shikamaru smirked softly and sat in the chair next to him before saying, "Hey Naruto." Wasn't expecting you to take your mask off so soon. As the sentence left his mouth, everyone looked to the three in surprise as Naruto glared at Shikamaru, making him smirk mirthfully. Yeshika, and I'm sure half of us didn't expect your lazy ass to wake up till about midday. What's with that? Naruto asked with a smirk as everyone looked at them confused as Shikamaru continued. Well, I had a wonderful sleep last night and thought since it's exam day I could sleep after finishing, Shikamaru said and was about to continue but was stopped when Koji spoke up. You two really don't change much, huh? Koji smirked and sat down. After all, Shika, you always sleep after exams. Shikamaru nodded and stretched with a large yawn. Yeah, I only sleep after because my Kaa-chan is too troublesome, especially when it comes to exams. Shikamaru shivered, making Naruto and Koji chuckle at their friend's expense. After everything was said, they sat silently as the rest of the class until Sasuke came in with his arrogant grin, and that's when Naruto covered his ears. As if on cue, the fangirls just screamed and surrounded Sasuke asking for dates and whatnot. This went on until Iruka had enough and shouted, silencing the class and making all the fangirls retreat to their seats as Naruto just smirked. After 30 seconds the door flung open and in ran. Walked. Whatever they did was Ino and Sakura, the loudest and in Naruto's opinion worst of the fangirls. He sighed and slammed his head into the desk, mumbling about taking a nap, and that's when everyone heard screams from outside the academy. Naruto smirked knowingly, causing Shikamaru to sigh and Koji to chuckle lightly. Everyone else looked confused, so Iruka got everyone's attention. Alright everyone, today is going to be your last in the academy, he said with a small smile. And I hope you use everything you learned here out in the field to become the best shinobi you all can and survive outside the village whenever you end up going out. As soon as he finished the full speech, his teaching assistant Mizuki walked in and Naruto groaned as he looked him. Now if you'd all turn to the front, me and Mizuki will be handing out the written exam and it should take 45 minutes to an hour to finish the exam. Iruka finished as he walked up Naruto's row, placing the exams down on the desk in front of students. When he reached Naruto's row, he whispered to them, I expect you to fill in all the answers this time, you three. As he placed their exam down and left down the next set of stairs, making the three groan. 1 hour later. Naruto had been finished for about half an hour now as he kept his head rested on the desk in front of him, spinning the paper with his finger holding it down. After doing it for 30 minutes, Iruka called for the exam to end and for the students to hand in their exams on their way to the practical exam area. As Naruto passed and handed his exam, he walked to the kunao and shuriken throwing range as they knew the order of the exam from all the practice exams they did. Naruto sat on one of the benches and sighed as he watched the civilians doing their throws, as he then groaned and muttered, I really wish I didn't have to hide my skills. In response he got a deep chuckle in his mind. But Naruto. Being a liar and secretive is part of being a shinobi, and you know that. Naruto groaned in response as he lay back, making Kurama laugh at his best friend and partner's expense. Yeah, no, if we graduated early, we would have been jonin and had the skills to probably beat Sandaime-sama, right? Naruto replied to the Kyuubi in his mindscape, getting silence as his response as he smirked and then heard his name being called as he jumped up. Yeah? Oh my god, he asked, getting a nod from Iruka as he nodded and walked over and touched the kunao that the academy had offered him, and then purposely tried to cut his fingertip with them only to find it not even scratch the surface of his skin. Hey Iruka-sensei? Naruto asked. Yes. Iruka replied, confused. Shouldn't the academy kunao and shuriken actually pierce the skin if you want it to go into a log? Naruto asked, showing Iruka how he was trying to stab his finger but it didn't even scratch or nip the skin to make it bleed. Iruka looked confused and then nodded before connecting the dots and sighing. Use your own, Naruto, Iruka said as he turned around. By next year we'll be having a staff reduction it seems, Iruka muttered to himself as he filed that away to mention to the Hokage. Naruto nodded and pulled out 10 kunao and shuriken from his pouch and holster respectively. He held the kunao in the gaps between his finished with the last for each hand hanging from his pinky. He threw the 4 between the gaps of his fingers after throwing the 2 from his pinky fingers in the air. As the ones in between his fingers left, he caught the 2 he threw up and threw them after the rest. The class watched the performance in awe while Naruto walked to his shuriken holster and pulled out his shuriken, not even bothering to check where the kunai went as they threw them after, and they sailed through the air, all nailing the target in vital areas such as the head, heart, lungs, femurs, esophagus and larynx, with a lot of the boys cringing at the sight of his last ones landing where the testicles are. Naruto turned to Iruka and asked, "So sensei, what did I score?" Iruka snapped out of his cringing and looked at the other kunai, 10 on kunai and 10 on shuriken. Iruka said as he clapped his hands and escorted them to the next part as Naruto was collecting his kunai and shuriken, which landed next to his kunai on the dummy. After Naruto finished collecting them, he walked to the taijutsu arena and put his kunai and shuriken away as he sat with his back to the wall. After all the other fights, Naruto saw Iruka cringe as he called out the last names. Uchiha Sasuke vs Uchiha Naruto. As Iruka finished, he heard Naruto walk past him and towards the ring. As soon as Naruto got there, his eyes narrowed, seeing the arrogant look on Sasuke's face, making him inwardly sigh. "You may as well give up, Dobe. After all, you can't beat me, the clan head," Sasuke said as Naruto sighed and looked at Sasuke impassively. "I'll have you know, Itaki is clan head until something may happen to him. Even if he isn't a part of this village, he is still the clan head," Naruto said before continuing, "and I see Fugaku filled your head with a bunch of bullshit before he died." As he finished, he saw Sasuke was clearly pissed off, and Iruka called them to do the seal of confrontation as Naruto held out his hand with the seal formed. Sasuke just swatted his hand away, making Naruto smile. "I guess that means start, Iruka-sensei," Naruto said, making Iruka sigh and nod. As soon as he nodded, Sasuke broke into a sprint towards Naruto and started to fight in the Interceptor Fist, which was the Uchiha's main taijutsu style. Naruto kept dodging all the attacks on him as he looked as if he were dancing and forcing Sasuke to dance with him. After a while, Naruto had seen enough and used his palm for hit Sasuke in the gut. As soon as the attack landed, Sasuke's body contorted around Naruto's hand as he was winded, then launched across the podium they were on. Naruto made sure to keep the strength just low enough so Sasuke wouldn't fall out as Naruto sighed and walked out. "Sasuke wins. I forfeited as he can't even land a hit on me." As Naruto finished, he sat down and Iruka called the match to finish. After Sasuke recovered enough, he glared at Naruto, who seemed to not notice as he waiting for the ninjutsu portion of the exams. After a while, he was called up last and Naruto walked down to the front. "Okay Naruto, the jutsu we need you to perform is the Kawarami Henge." Then finally the Bushin. Naruto nodded and did a Kawarami without hand signs to replace himself with the chalk on the chalkboard, making Naruto stand in front of it. After he did it the other way and then preformed the henge to make himself look like Hiruzen Sarutobi in his Hokage robes, and then turned back to himself and finally preformed the Kage Bushin, which he got from his father's notes flawlessly and without a seal. This surprised the whole class as Iruka nodded again and handed Naruto a Hitai-8, making Naruto smile down at it softly. After he walked to his seat, he sat down only to groan as an Umbu appeared and whispered to Iruka, making Iruka sigh, "Naruto, Hokage-sama wishes to speak to you." Iruka said as Naruto got up and nodded before disappearing in a smokeless shunshin, surprising Iruka severely. "How?" Iruka asked and the Umbu looked at him. His cousin was Shunshin no Shisui, the Umbu said before disappearing, making Mizuki pale and Iruka to look stunned as Naruto never mentioned his family apart from his mother. Sasuke though growled and thought of ways to get Naruto to teach him everything as he couldn't use the clan head status. Council Chambers. Naruto appeared in front of Hiruzen and then sat at the chair that was slightly pulled out for him. As soon as he sat down, Hiruzen cleared his throat and asked, "So Naruto, did you do this morning?" he asked as seriously as he could without bursting out into laughter. Naruto looked confused and made a thinking pose. "Well, this morning I made and ate breakfast, bacon, sausage, eggs, some other stuff, then I did my morning routine of running along the village walls." accidentally in tomato guy, he shivered as did everyone in the room, then went to have a shower, get dressed and left for the academy. Where Washi-san just got me form after graduating, Naruto finished with a nod as if to confirm his thoughts. Yeah, that's all, Naruto finished as Hiruzen nodded. Why so, Sandaime-sama? Naruto asked, making Hiruzen look to the fuming civilian council members. Because the Honorable Council believes that you broke into their homes and pranked them all, Hiruzen answered, making Naruto fake a hurt look. But what reason would I have to break into the almighty civilian council members' houses and prank them? Naruto asked sarcastically before smirking. Even if I did do something, they can't do anything as I am now a shinobi. I fall under the jurisdiction of the Shinobi Council, and the Hokage himself and the Civilian Council can only command and take part in civilian affairs as stated in the rules of the village and the founding members of the village such as Shodaime-sama, Nidaime-sama and Madara. Naruto smirk turned more sinister. It was one of the first rules the two clans agreed on. Naruto looked to the Hokage and said, "It falls under Article 17 subparagraph 13. The civilian council are only to be present when there is a threat to the village. Other than that, they can only call council meetings if the village's economy is in danger or if a member of the council recently died. Apart from that, they shouldn't have a say in anything other than the merchant guild in Konoha or when a civilian member plans to move outside of the village, where it states if said person has a family member who plans to become a shinobi, they come back to Konoha and they join our academy." Naruto finished as the Hokage looked stunned and looked in the books for it and found it. And with it being a founding rule of Konoha, it doesn't need a vote, nor can it be vetoed or overruled unless the fire daimyo says that it is overruled, and even then he needs a very large reason to reinstate the civilian council, such as wartime council, or the village isn't in a good place under the current Hokage. Naruto finished, making the Hokage grin and the shinobi council to sit there speechless. Hiruzen smirked and looked to the civilian council. "So I see that I missed that article in the rules. I believe it's time you all left," he finished, making the fuming council look defeated and leave the council chambers as Naruto sighed. "And when it comes to the elder council, Hokage-sama," Naruto said, catching the attention of the Hokage, "the clan heads and the elders, they are only here to advise you. They legally can't assign missions to the shinobi of the village unless there is a time where Konoha is left without a leader, and even then they need to have the clan heads read the description and then send it to the fire daimyo. They aren't even supposed to be in council meetings. They are supposed to get a rundown after the meetings and then see what advice they can give you to make you come to a decision. Unless it damages Konoha." Naruto finished with a smirk, seeing the shocked faces on the council apart from Danzo, whose teeth were gritted, but become shocked when he saw Naruto mouth checkmate and grin. Then it became horrified as Naruto continued, "And I'd like to know something, Hokage-sama." Hiruzen looked intrigued and nodded. "Yes, what is it, Naruto?" Naruto's smirk grew as he looked at Hiruzen, getting a raised eyebrow. "Did you assign elder member Danzo Shimura a mission to come to me to train me whilst I was in the academy?" Naruto asked, surprising everyone but Danzo, who paled. "Or maybe you assigned him some umbu with blank masks and any on them. Or, and here's my favorite part," Naruto smirked and looked Danzo dead in the eyes, "maybe you gave him permission to send said umbu to the graves of the fallen Uchiha from the Uchiha massacre to remove the eyes from my dead clansmen." Naruto put the final nail in the proverbial coffin, and Danzo left as soon as Naruto finished, making Naruto smirk. "And here I was only using hypotheticals, but the way he fled when I finished makes me believe that he didn't have any permission, and I just revealed the village's biggest traitor since Orochimaru." Naruto mumbled, surprising the clan heads, especially the Nara clan, as he had deduction skills on par with the rest of his clan. Hiruzen sighed and chuckled softly before taking a drag of his pipe. "If only you could use that mind to figure out the secret to beating paperwork," Hiruzen muttered, making Naruto's eyes brighten. "I knew there was another. I wanted to see you today, Sandaime-sama," Naruto exclaimed. "I'd like to open a new bank account, and I'd like to share with you and the other clan heads the secret." Naruto finished as he shooed away the last two elders, Koharu and Homura, who left, and Naruto smirked as he saw the clan head's eyes sparkle slightly, so he cleared his throat. I'll give you all a hint, this technique takes a lot of chakra. People use it for training and practicing dangerous jutsus, Naruto said, and they saw them all coming up with blanks still, so he sighed. If I was looking to the right and also the left, how would I do it? Then the realization dawned on them all, and Hiruzen walked to Naruto, then kneeled down to him. Hail the new professor of shinobi, Hiruzen said. And Naruto patted his head. No thanks, don't wanna be in the bingo books until I kill someone at least A rank. And with that Naruto vanished from the council rooms and went home to get some training in before eating and going to sleep.